Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar regarding the ransomware industry. My name is Yuval Shapira. I'm head of research at Cyberint, and with me today is Shmuel.
Hello everyone, I'm Shmuel. I'm a lead security researcher here in Cyberint. Nice to meet you all.
So a few notes before we begin. This webinar is recorded and will be available to you once we finish, and there will be a Q&A section at the end. So please ask away any question you have, and we'll do our best to answer these at the end. So today we would like to talk about the ransomware industry, looking back at 2021 and a few interesting cases already seen in 2022. The scope today will include a small intro, followed by a quick common TTP section of the ransomware world. Then we will look back at 2021 for a small recap for the larger worth-mentioned groups. We'll move to talk about the recent notable events from the last month or so of 2022. And we conclude with some audience questions. So the ransomware industry continues to dominate. We keep seeing and hearing more and more about it over the news, about new more infection cases. And as more groups keep on appearing, it looks like a problem everyone faces these days. And it's here to stay and evolve. It doesn't matter the region or the sector, almost everyone could be a target. On the top, one of the top target regions is the US. And when looking at different sectors over the course of 2021, the industrial and energy and the retail sectors are the dominant ones. We will now move to talk about the different tactics, techniques, and procedures around the ransomware infection chains. We will see the basic flow of the attack. When a threat actor will try to pinpoint his victim, he will try to gain initial access, move laterally, internally to search for the valuable data, steal and encrypt the data. So we will now drill down each of these in short and talk about some of the methods we see more common in ransomware attacks. So at this point, we want to ask ourselves, what does the threat actor want to achieve? What's his motivation? And in ransomware's case, it usually comes down to both money and fame. The threat actor will try to usually target the companies he thinks he has a better chance to get paid, while steering away from few distinct sectors, with few exceptions, as we're about to see. The ransomware as a service model made it easier for affiliates to enter the world of ransomware, which made it affordable to use ransomwares. However, it shifts the focus from the larger victims to whoever possible to infect. Regarding the exceptions that might be at a lower risk, as I've just mentioned, the first exception would be the CIS countries. For example, you have Russia, Belarus, and more. The second exception is the education and healthcare sectors. But again, we do hear about hospital malfunction due to ransomware attacks. So again, an exception for every rule, you could say. The third exception is strategic entities usually gets left out, while we can still see exceptions like the strategic attack on Colonial Pipeline. Okay, after the threat actor has chosen his victim, he will need a way in. So there are three typical infection vectors. First one being using malicious emails, whether phishing for customer credentials or even emails sent with a malicious attachment. Second way in is using vulnerabilities. This method is a bit more complicated, as some vulnerabilities could be pricey, others could be more approachable, you could say, and publicly disclosed and publicly available exploit codes. The third option is to use someone else's tools. For example, use a third-party malware service for delivery methods. Moving along, after the threat actor got his foot at the door, what does he do? So obviously the top priority here is to get the important data and use it as leverage. But how do I do that without getting caught? So first, we can talk about avoiding the security vendors or products. You can bypass antivirus tools. You can disable Windows Defender. You can remove the shadow copies or delete the backups. And next, you want to stay persistent on the system. So you can leverage these using scheduled tasks, registry keys, or startup folders. So the threat actor is under the radar. No one is looking. He's avoiding all the AV vendors and security models, and it's time to encrypt the data. So different families will use different encryption algorithms, and some will combine several encryption algorithms, and they will also use different file extensions for the encrypted files. So for example, you can see here the Conti extension being appended to the encrypted files. So the threat actor have encrypted everything. You got the relevant file, all is well. And it's time to leave a note. It needs to let the victim know about the attack, basically. So the threat actor will usually leave a text editor window open, indicating the attack, or leave a README file, as you can see in bold, that once it's opened, explains the terrible news. You're infected with ransomware. Don't try to decrypt anything. It won't work. Please contact us and get your precious files. And pay us top money, basically. Looking at the different types of extortion threat actor will attempt, we can see the single extortion, which is only steal the valuable data and demand a ransom for it. The double extortion is when you both encrypt the data to try and stop the company services, as well as steal the data. And triple extortion includes both encrypting and stealing the data with an added twist. And it's gunning for the company's customers, partners, and the other third parties and extort these as well. And we can take, for example, for triple extortion, a recent ransomware attack on Kronos company from about a month ago, when only yesterday, I think, it was published that Kronos stolen data from the ransomware attack led to an attack on one of their vendors, Puma, which is a sports manufacturer. So I can say some groups will deal with only single extortion, since, well, why bother with over complexity and encryption? And once you get the data, that's it. While other groups tend to pressure the victim and use double or triple extortion methods. And after all this, all of these TTPs that we've just talked about, as we said in the beginning, these guys are here also for the fame. So they will post about it in their leak sites, about the most recent victims. We'll do a countdown to pressure you to pay, or else they will leak the data. And they will post your company logo with a few words about your company, and basically create a large mess to your organization. And with this mess, we conclude our first part of the common TTPs we usually see in the ransomware world. And now, after we all know the basic steps of the attack, let's talk about some of the more notorious groups out there. So Shmuel, please continue.
Yeah, thank you, Ivan. So yeah, now we're going to talk about the worst of the worst. This is how we call it. We're going to cover the top 3 ransomware families for 2021. So let's begin with a short landscape of how things going on at the moment, or at least for 2021. So we had Conti, Lockbit, and Paisa, which are the most dominant ones. You can see that Conti and Lockbit go back to back, but they are the 2 most dominant. Of course, Paisa is far behind. So yeah, let's start breaking down each family. So if we're talking about Conti, they're the most dominant one. They're based in Russian region, not necessarily in Russia, but in Russia region. They've been around since 2020. They have started their way in the ransomware industry, having massive mass spam campaigns that were abusing the COVID-19 pandemic, and they had huge success back in the days. They were linked to Widget Spider, which is another hacking group, not necessarily ransomware, but hacking group that is also based in Russian region. So after the success they had in the beginning, they didn't stop there. They have improved themselves, they expanded themselves, they recruited more people. So when we're looking at their TTPs, for example, we can see that they have started via phishing and mail spam, but after recruiting more talented people, they have been able to go and use the initial infection vector as use tools such as vulnerability exploitation, and they have made connections with campaigners, info-stealing campaigners, to get valid accounts and compromised credentials that help them do an initial infections. And of course, they wasn't afraid to use third-party services such as Emotet botnet to deploy their payload. And when we're talking about the post-intrusion, they don't do anything special other than what Yuval already mentioned. So when we talk about persistence and defense evasion, they do try to disable the Windows defenders, and they do delete the shadow copies, and they do all the classic things and a threat actor will do in this stage. The encryption phase and ransom note phase is also something that they don't have something unique to it. Pretty much all encryption phases for all ransomware groups come down to 2 or 3 techniques, and they're not trying to invent the wheel. They're not trying to do anything new. It works just fine. This is how they use them. When we talk about the ransom note, then as Yuval already showed in his example before, you can see that they're leaving the .conti, and they usually put it in some visible place, eye-catching place for the victim. But although that, I believe that when it comes to big organizations, they know that something is wrong even without the ransom note, of course. Let's move on to Lockbit, the second one. Lockbit 2.0, sorry. They are the runner-up for the king of all thieves, and they have the fastest encryption algorithm. They don't waste any opportunity to show it and to tell it. They're very proud of their product. They've been around since September 19, had many successful campaigns, and their TTPs is a bit different because when we talk about the initial infection, they do use the more classic ways such as phishing and vulnerability exploitation because they have the talents to do so, but they also do inside threat recruitment. Now, when we're talking about inside threat recruitment, the idea of it is the fact that they will try to recruit inside workers of a targeted victim and try to manipulate them and try to pursue them to lure them to help out and give them the initial infection. It's not something that is social engineering. It is straightforward the deal. They will contact those personas via email, sometimes LinkedIn, sometimes even go far as WhatsApp or Telegram and stuff like that. And they will contact them and they will tell them as simple as that, this is our business offer, give us your credentials and you will get X, Y, Z in return. And we have seen cases in which they offered up to $1 million in case of good credentials that will lead them to a successful campaign. Of course, it depends on the campaign. It depends on the ability of the victim to pay and such. But yeah, now the fact that they're doing it for a while is pretty much, and the fact that we can, and we have seen other ransomware families doing it also, suggests that even it doesn't have 100% success rate, it have a good enough success rate for them to keep doing it. So I guess it's a good lead generator for them. When we come to the post-intrusion, yet again, pretty much the same levels, the same persistence, defense evasion, and lateral movement sequence that they all try to do. They have, however, added new features, as they all do, right? But they have added lately a new feature of targeting ESXi servers, which means that whatever you use virtual VMs within your organization and stuff like that, they're looking for these assets also, which is something that they didn't do before. And when we talk about the encryption phase, then of course they have the fastest encryption model. You can see in their leak sites the comparison between everyone, and they have the fastest one, including Conti, by the way. And yeah, that's pretty much about it when it comes to Lockbit. The ransom note, yet again, is pretty much the same as Conti, and there's nothing special here. And the third party, which have its own characteristics, is Paisa, which is a Protect Your System Amigo, stands for Protect Your System Amigo. The thing about Paisa is that they're using an open source and free tools in their campaigns. So every tool that they're using, everyone can see, everyone can try to play with it a little bit and try to get his hands on. It's not something that they are developing in-house or secretly or whatever. And they operated the whole, they've been around since October 19. And when we talk about the TTPs, then the most important thing is that in the initial infection, they tried in the past, we have seen cases in which they tried in the past to imitate Lockbit when it comes to inside threat recruitment. Not sure how much did it work, but we have seen cases in which they tried. Other than that, they're going for the basic phishing, mouse spam, vulnerability exploitation. When it comes to the post-intrusion, this is something that is pretty interesting because throughout the lateral movement phase, at least, they operate manually and they try to do everything that they can manually. It's not something that is very common, but this is what they do. And maybe, just maybe, this is why they're so far off Lockbit and Conti, their competitors. So when it comes to the encryption phase and ransom note, again, nothing special here. And to be honest, Paisa, although it came third, they didn't have any major incident they're responsible of. They didn't have anything that is too much, makes them special comparing to others that are not Lockbit and Conti. But yet again, they came up third. So there are other families that we thought are worth mentioning, and we thought are probably families that we will hear a lot about, even if we didn't already. Now, I'm not sure, I don't think that those two families will necessarily take the place of Conti and Lockbit. We're not sure that they'll necessarily be the leaders now, but we're pretty sure that they will have their solid places between the top 5, maybe top 10, but they will probably take the places of groups such as REvil or Avadon or Hive, those type of families. So the first one we want to talk about is Avaslocker. They're kind of a newcomer. They have been around since July 2021. They're fairly successful given the fact that they're new. And when I say new, I mean they're legitimate new. So it's not a rebrand. They're not something that we have seen before. But the thing is about them is that you can see that they already made some shockwaves. They already made some very successful campaigns. Here we have some kind of a funny example about them. So the thing is, like Yuval already said, there are some exceptions of who those ransomware families will target. And Avaslocker have targeted, I guess, by mistake, a US government site. So at the moment that they have understand that this is what happened and this is the victim, in a way, then they immediately gave the decryptor free of charge and just hope that this whole thing would be forgotten because they didn't want to draw a lot of attention, especially not from the US government, right? So yeah, those was Avaslocker. If we're talking about Consari is also a fairly new ransomware group. They have made their entrance into the industry as the first ransomware group ever to exploit the log4shell vulnerability. And it was around, I think, less than a week after the log4shell vulnerability has been published. Consari already made one successful campaign using it. And the thing about Consari and Avaslocker is that you can see that those two groups looking to make their way up. So they try to recruit new people. They try to expand their operations, try to offer better terms within their ransomware as a service business model to affiliates that will come to work with them, not with the big ones, and so on. The third group that we want to talk about, which is, in my opinion, one of the more interesting one, is Black Hat. Now, Black Hat was allegedly Darkside and Black Matter. Who doesn't know Darkside and Black Matter? Darkside and Black Matter was ransomware groups throughout 2020, 21, I think even 2019. They are responsible for the Colonial Pipeline incident that we had in 2021, which was major incident, and which is also getting to the category of the exceptions that Yuval talked about before. So the fact that they targeted the Colonial Pipeline, even though it was by mistake or not, doesn't matter. They drawed a lot of heat from the US government, and the US government have announced that they're coming for them. So they went off grid for a couple of months. Back in the days, there was dark side, and then they returned as black matter, and they went off grid again. Now, in our report we have published in January, in last month, about the ransomware landscape, we had some predictions about dark side and black matter, and we were pretty sure they were going to come back. We said they're going to come back in some constellation, and last week Black Hat had a interview which they have announced and came forward and said, we are dark side, we are black matter, we came back. So yeah, those are the three groups that we have we thought is worth mentioning. And yeah, let's move on. So we want to talk about 2022, and 2022 started really strong with multiple cases that we wanted to talk about. So let's start with the R-Evil arrest. Of course, I'm sure a lot of you heard about it. So R-Evil was a major group also, and on 14th of January, the Russian law enforcement arrested R-Evil operators. And R-Evil was the major case in which everyone knows R-Evil from, the Kaseya incident, which at first it was compared to the SolarWinds incident we had, but it wasn't the same scale, it wasn't the same damage, but it was still pretty big. So up until up from this point, when Kaseya incident happened, R-Evil drawn a lot of heat, and there were several arrests throughout 2021, even regardless this case of R-Evil. So the group was dying pretty much from October 2021 up until now. And at the end of the day, on the 14th of January, as I already said, the remains, I guess, they were arrested, and pretty much the big group went down. Now, we have asked ourselves the question, will it matter? Would it matter when it comes to the ransomware industry? Would it matter when it comes to other groups? And the question, the answer that we came up with, and the answer is, in our opinion, it won't matter, because it doesn't. We haven't seen any other groups that went off grid because of that. We didn't have any. We didn't saw any other groups that slowed down things because of that. On the contrary, even we have seen them even doing more. And we have seen Lockbit starting the year very, very strong with a lot of campaigns that they have made. So it doesn't seem that it's intervened any of the other groups' work. Furthermore, we have seen some speculations that talk about the fact that this arrest wasn't even supposed to feel anything other than some political gain from the Russian authorities towards the United States, but we're not going to get into politics when it comes to this story, at least. So let's move on to the second case that we have seen, the Deadwood ransomware. Now, Deadwood ransomware was also something that is pretty unique, because Deadwood is also fairly a new group, and Deadwood have found a zero-day in QNAP storage devices. And just like, this is a fairly great example for what Yuval already said about the triple extortion technique. So what happened is that they have been able to encrypt the QNAP infrastructures and QNAP network, but also they was able to encrypt the clients of QNAP also, the client machine also. So they had, as you can see on the left, you can see the ransom note of Deadbolt towards the clients, right? When they say you can pay $1,100 and you can get your things back. But if you see on the bottom, they had an important message for QNAP also. So if you look at the important message, you can see that what happened there is that they offered two payment options. They said, if you rather want, you can pay us for the zero-day alone, which was around $184,000, or you can have the 0-day and the master decryption key for $1.85 million. We're not sure. We don't think we can be sure if QNAP had paid or not. But what we do know is that on January 27th, they have released a patch for the 0-day. So we don't want to. We're not sure about what happened after that. Let's move on to the third, and in my opinion, the most interesting one is the political ransomware. Now, on January 24th, Belarusian railway infrastructure were hit by ransomware. And this story is so special because this is the first political ransomware we have seen. And it's not just because the fact that it was caused by a Belarusian group that named the Cyber Partisans. And this is an interesting story just because the demands wasn't like all other ransomwares. It wasn't just financial gain, but it was a political gain. The demand was releasing of 50 political prisoners and to stop the Russian troops from entering Belarus in order to have a training session or to actually attack the Ukraine. So this story by itself is something that is very unique and very important and might shed some light to the rest of what we're going to see this year in the coming years because of two reasons. The first one is the fact that hacktivists used to use wiping techniques, right? They used to just get in, wiping targeted machines and do damage, slow things down or stop things. And that's pretty much it. But now when they have migrated to the encryption technique and to the ransomware technique, they have a negotiation card and they can try to have real value from what they do. So the fact that they kind of evolve their tactics into it is something that is very important to understand and to see. And the second point is that we don't look forward to it, but we expect that other regions with political conflicts might see more cases like that, because we're not sure if the Belarusian cyber partisans have actually gained those demands, but it's pretty common to think that other groups might look to have some other political gain from their actions. So we do think that other regions in the world with political conflicts will see more cases like this. Moving forward, we can see that this is the Belarusian cyber partisans Twitter account in which they have presented their demands. You can see that there are like a lot of retweets, a lot of tweets, a lot of likes. So this is something that they didn't hide or anything. They just showed and they were pretty proud of it. Let's move on to our something that we have seen also, and we're calling it stepping out of the shadows. So the thing is that ransomware groups, ever since let's put it 6 months, we have seen that they're kind of coming out. They're kind of looking to show themselves more, and they're looking to have more attention from the public and to have more attention from the communities that are not necessarily but interested in this type of cybercrime, let's put it this way. So they have they've hired, we saw cases in which ransomware groups have hired spokesperson. They have created interviews. They've done interviews. Our Evil did an interview last year. Black Hat and the Cyber Partisans had interviewed this year to The Wire. They had Twitter accounts. So back in the days, it used to be just an onion page, leak page, and now it's not like that at all. They're full organization, and publicity is one of the things that they are investing in. So they actually, we're not sure. My gamble is that they're doing it because they feel comfortable, because they feel that they can do it, because maybe it's because the law authorities are incapable at the moment to stop those big organizations, or maybe they just led by their ego, led by their fame. They're basically an underground rock stars, and they can do pretty much whatever they want, and they starting to become more and more popular. So yeah, that's about all the events that we have seen on 2022.
Okay, so we'll move now to the Q&A part. Let's see the chats or the Q&A section. I see here, Shmuel, are there any connections or differences between these groups?
Okay, so they're not necessarily connections between the groups, but it is something that, like the ransomware industry, is like any other industry, whether if it's legit or not. So businesses, i.e. the ransomware groups, always look to compare themselves to others and to see what succeeded to one might have success to us. So they always try to evolve and to copy things. Now, it's not necessarily something that the small ones learn from the big ones, but it can go the other way around. So if we want a good example for it, we talked about Avos Locker, and Avos Locker had the ESXi module, the server ESXi module, in which they targeted the ESXi servers within an organization, and they have full control. So after Lockbit saw that this happened, and after Lockbit saw this new feature with Avos, they've also added it to their arsenal. So you can see that it's not always just the big ones that teach the small ones, but it can go the other way around. And another example, if we mentioned Lockbit, was the fact that Lockbit had the inside threat recruitment, and we have seen that after a while they did it. So other groups did it also. So yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think that they're necessarily talking straight to each other, but I'm 100% sure that they're learning from each other. That's for sure.
Yeah. Another question here. Are there any other reasons for the rise of ransomware cases? So I think what pops to mind is the ransomware as a service model, which made ransomware more affordable, you could say, to not so techy threat actors, and made it easy to increase the volume of ransomware infections and the revenues, and make the product more approachable, I guess. Would any take on that?
Yeah, I think that of course, I agree with the first point. I think that there are two more points that I think that have contributed to the thrive of the ransomware industry. And I think that the first one is the how can I say it? It's the fact that there are some legitimate businesses that came with a good cause, good reasons, such as the ransomware insurance, or law firms that help a negotiation and help with the law repercussions when a victim is getting hit by an organization is getting hit by ransomware. So I think that in those cases, the fact that those two businesses have come to life and help victims in time of need, it kind of pushed victims to the acceptance that maybe I should just go and pay the ransom, and it put less of thinking about whether if I pay or not, because as a victim, as a business, my only thought, my only concern is to get my business back on track after I got hit by ransomware, right? And if I have insurance and if I have a negotiation team that can help me out, then maybe I just pay it and that's it. So even though they play along pretty much, so this whole situation have caused that more victims just choose to pay and to get their business back on track. And this is one reason why ransomware industry have such success in the past year. And the third one is that, ironically, is that ransomware groups have improved the reliability in front of victims. What do I mean by that? Is that around 2, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, maybe, most of the victims didn't want to pay. A lot of times they didn't want to pay because at the end of the day, the reliability of them getting their files back, getting their encryptors even back, was was really bad. The reliability in front of the victims by the threat actors was really bad. And a lot of them just chose to not to pay just because the fact that they wasn't sure that they're going to get their things back, their files back and everything. So the ransomware groups have actually came to the conclusion, again, ironically, that they need to improve their services, that they need to improve their reliability in front of the customers, or our case is the victims. And they have made name for themselves for the one that, no, I will get your things back. You will see that you'll get them back and stuff like that. And over the years, they've actually improved their restore rate by from around 50%, 55, 60% to 90, 95% of the stolen files have been returned. And almost a lot, at least I'm talking about the big groups and the most successful groups, that they have given the decryptors back, they have given the files back, and they didn't leak them after. So yeah, I think that combining the ransomware as a service that Yuval already said, when you take those two causes, you have a good amount of reasons why the ransomware industry is thriving so much at the moment.
Okay, I see one more question in the chat. Shmuel, you can take it on you too. You can see it on your chat too. I will read the question. Ransomware groups is a language-centric thing so far, meaning Russian-speaking areas are keeping it to themselves, kind of trust or comfort zone.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll answer it. I think that
I'm not sure that the. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, answer.
Yeah, no, I just think that it's no secret that most ransomware groups, the major ransomware groups that we have seen, are Russian-speaking natives, right? So there's a lot of speculation around that, because if you take a look at victims that we have seen in the past, you can see that almost no victims was from Russia, almost no victims was from the CIS. So yeah, Jesus, yeah. You said it well, because it's kind of trust/comfort zone, because maybe their comfort zone is ignoring the fact that this is what they do. Maybe I don't know. There's a lot of speculation around that, but yeah, the meaning is that this is the whole area of Russia, the CIS countries, and stuff like that. If you have anything to add to that.
No, nothing to add to that, I guess. I agree with you. I don't see any questions. Okay, I guess we're done. Okay, so thank you everyone for attending our webinar. If you feel you need more information, or you need to ask some more questions, please reach out using the website. And that's it for today. Thanks for being here. Hope you enjoyed it. And since today is turns out it's National Pizza Day, so nice pizza day, everyone, and thank you.
Thank you, everyone.